He was a German shepherd so aggressive that even the shelter staff feared approaching his kennel. Everyone said he was beyond hope and should be put down. Behind the bars, he snarled at anyone who came close, his eyes reflecting a history no one knew. But when a woman who understood trauma looked past the aggression, something extraordinary began to unfold. This is the journey of Rex, a feared shelter dog who became a beloved companion. It's a story that shows how patience, understanding, and unconditional love can transform even the most broken spirits. Get ready for a story that may forever change how you see aggressive animals. "Don't go near that one," warned Megan, the shelter manager, as she guided new volunteer Elise through the facility. "That's Rex. He's been here 8 months. Nobody can get close to him." Elise paused at the kennel door, observing the German shepherd pressed into the far corner. His black and tan coat was dull, his powerful body tense. At first glance, he seemed to be sleeping, but Elise noticed his eyes, open, watchful, intense. "What's his story?" she asked, maintaining a respectful distance. "Police found him chained up on an abandoned property. Looks like he was used as a guard dog by some not-so-nice people. He's never shown aggression toward other dogs. Just people, especially men." As if to confirm that, a male volunteer walked past. Rex lunged at the kennel door, teeth bared, a deep growl reverberating from his chest. The man muttered under his breath, "That dog's crazy," and hurried away. "We've tried everything," Megan continued. "Trainers, behaviorists, even medication. Nobody can get close enough to help him. The board's meeting next week to discuss his fate." Elise understood what that meant. As a trauma therapist, she recognized the signs: hypervigilance, fear-based aggression, triggered responses. But she saw something else too, something in those amber eyes that others had missed. "May I sit here for a while?" Elise asked, gesturing to the floor across from Rex's kennel. Megan looked surprised. "Sure, but he won't interact. He just growls or hides." After Megan left, Elise settled cross-legged on the floor, deliberately avoiding eye contact. From her bag, she pulled out a book and began reading aloud, in a soft, monotonous voice. Not speaking to Rex, just existing in his space without demands or expectations. For 20 minutes, she read. Rex watched her. His body remained tense, but the growling eventually subsided. When she finished her chapter, she quietly closed the book. "I'll come back tomorrow, Rex," she whispered, standing and walking away. She didn't see how his eyes followed her until she disappeared, or how he crept slightly forward when she was gone. "You can't be serious." Dr. Harris, the shelter veterinarian, stared at Elise across the conference table. "That dog is dangerous. He needs a specialized facility, not someone's home." The shelter board meeting had been underway for 20 minutes. Elise's adoption application for Rex had sparked intense debate. Outside, a storm raged. Rain lashed against the windows of the small conference room. "With all due respect, Doctor," Elise said calmly, "Rex has been misunderstood. His aggression is fear-based, not dominance-based. He needs consistency and safety to begin healing." The board president looked over her application. "You live alone? No kids, no other pets?" "That's right. I have a fenced acre, a secure home. I work from home as a trauma therapist. I understand the risks. I'm ready." Megan, who had once been skeptical, spoke up. "She's the only one who's been able to get near him without triggering aggression. I've seen it. There's something there." After more discussion, the board voted 4-3 in favor with strict conditions. "You'll work with our trainer. Weekly progress reports for the first 3 months," the president stated. "And if there's any incident, Rex returns immediately." As Elise signed the paperwork, she heard Rex barking from the kennel area, agitated by the storm. She knew the real work was only beginning. Getting Rex home was the first major hurdle. He refused to enter a crate, growling and backing away. Eventually, Megan helped Elise set up a partition in her SUV, creating a safe space for the tense shepherd. The 30-minute drive was filled with Rex's anxious panting and occasional growls. When they reached Elise's small farmhouse, the rain hadn't let up. Rex didn't want to leave the vehicle. Elise entered the house first, leaving doors open so Rex could observe. She laid a long training lead on the ground and stepped away. 20 minutes passed. Finally, Rex stepped out, following the lead at his own pace, keeping his distance. Inside, she had prepared a cozy space, a crate with the door removed, lined with soft bedding, positioned to allow Rex full view of the room. She had removed anything that might startle him. 3 weeks in, progress was measured in inches. Rex now ate, while Elise was in the room, though he still waited until she stepped back. He slept more. His hypervigilance had decreased slightly, but emotionally and physically, he remained unreachable. Marcus, the shelter-assigned trainer, visited weekly. A burly man with years of experience, he was skeptical of Elise's methods. "You need to establish dominance," he said during his first visit, as Rex growled from his corner. "Show him who's in charge." Elise disagreed. "That'll just reinforce his fear. He doesn't need to submit, he needs to feel safe." Their philosophical divide created tension. Marcus predicted failure unless Elise took a firmer hand, but she stayed true to her method: presence without pressure, consistency without force. Then came the turning point. One quiet Tuesday, Elise sat reading as usual. Rex began pacing, increasingly agitated. Suddenly he lunged at her, teeth bared, growling. Elise froze, heart pounding. "It's okay, Rex. I'm just opening the door," she said calmly. She moved slowly, opened the back door to the fenced yard. Rex bolted outside and circled the yard before relieving himself. That's when she realized he hadn't been aggressive. He had been desperate. He didn't know how to ask. That night she installed a bell system by the door, planning to teach him how to signal his needs. Most importantly, Rex hadn't bitten. He had warned, but held back. The next morning, Rex wasn't in his corner. He had moved to the center of the living room. When Elise approached, he retreated, but the shift was undeniable. That day she placed his food bowl slightly closer to her. For the first time, Rex approached without waiting for her to leave, cautiously bridging the gap, only 6 feet between them. When Marcus returned, he noticed. "He's not reacting anymore. He's assessing," he said. For the first time, he observed without judgment. "You're giving him a voice," he said, noticing the bell system. "That's what he needs most." 2 months after adoption, the barriers were still falling. Rex now slept at the foot of Elise's bed, still distant but present. He used the bell system. He had even developed distinct whines Elise could interpret. But physical touch was still off limits. Marcus warned her gently, "Some dogs never get there, and that might be okay." Elise accepted that, yet each day she moved his food bowl an inch closer, and each day the invisible bubble shrank. Then came the delivery truck, a knock, a rattling door handle, and Rex, panicked, launched himself between Elise and the front door, barking furiously, teeth bared, hackles raised. Elise called out, "Please leave the package. I'll get it later." As the truck drove off, Rex trembled, watching the door. "Thank you," Elise whispered. "You were protecting me, weren't you?" The next morning, Rex approached as Elise read, circling her, watching. Finally, he lay just 3 feet away, close enough that she could see his breathing, his amber eyes. She kept reading, pretending not to notice, giving him space to retreat. But he didn't. Then came winter. Snow blanketed the land, and for the first time, Rex played. Through the drifts, Rex plunged his muzzle into the powdery snow, tossing it into the air like a playful child. Standing on the porch, Elise laughed at his antics, momentarily forgetting the careful rules that defined their relationship. "You're quite the snow dog, aren't you?" she called. Rex paused his play, looking at her with an expression that seemed, just for a moment, almost happy. He took a few tentative steps toward the porch, then retreated to the safety of the yard. resuming his snow exploration at a greater distance. Later that afternoon, Elise needed to clear the long driveway. As she worked with the shovel, Rex watched from the porch, his eyes following her every movement. When she slipped slightly on a hidden patch of ice, his body tensed, leaning forward as if ready to bolt to her aid. "I'm okay," she called, steadying herself. Rex settled back but remained vigilant. As dusk approached, Elise finished the driveway and headed inside to prepare dinner. Rex followed, shaking off snow in the entryway before returning to his usual routine of careful proximity. Close, but never touching. That night the temperature dropped dramatically. Elise woke at 2 a.m. to a house that felt unusually cold. Checking the thermostat, she discovered the heating system had failed. After calling the 24-hour repair service, she added logs to the fireplace in the living room, building up a warm blaze. Rex, who normally settled on the bedroom floor, had followed her, sensing the disruption in their routine. He watched as she arranged blankets near the fireplace, creating a warm nest for them both to wait out the cold night. "The repair person won't be here until morning," she told him, settling into her blankets. "We'll have to stay warm by the fire." Rex circled uncertainly before lying down on the far edge of the blanket pile, maintaining his usual careful distance. As the night wore on and the house grew colder, Elise dozed fitfully, waking occasionally to add logs to the fire. Around 4 a.m., she stirred and was startled to find Rex had moved significantly closer. He now lay just inches away, his body curled toward her, though still not touching. The invisible boundary remained, but it had shrunk to its smallest margin yet. Pretending not to notice, Elise added another log and settled back into her blankets. "Good night, brave one," she whispered. When she next opened her eyes, weak morning light filtered through the windows. The fire had burned down to embers, and the house was bitterly cold, but Elise felt unexpectedly warm, because during the night, Rex had finally crossed the boundary. "I still wouldn't trust him around strangers," Marcus cautioned during his visit the following week. "One breakthrough doesn't mean complete rehabilitation." Elise nodded, her eyes on Rex, who now lay comfortably at her feet during these consultations, though he still kept his distance from Marcus. "We're taking it day by day," she said. "The physical contact is increasing, but always on his terms." In the week since the heating failure, Rex had begun initiating brief moments of connection, leaning slightly against Elise's leg while she worked at her desk, or placing his head near her hand without quite touching it. It was an invitation, one she could accept by bridging the final inch. These were small moments, easily missed by anyone unfamiliar with their history. But to Elise, each one was a mountain climbed, a fear faced, a boundary overcome. The shelter board extended their monitoring period, impressed by the progress, but still cautious. Every 2 weeks, Elise submitted videos and detailed notes, documenting their journey. As winter deepened, their routine expanded to include daily walks in the nearby nature preserve. At first, Rex was tense, hypervigilant around other hikers and dogs. Elise chose the quietest trails at the least popular hours, gradually building his confidence in unfamiliar environments. On a particularly secluded path, they had begun brief off-leash sessions. To Elise's surprise, Rex demonstrated reliable recall despite his troubled history. Today, as snow fell gently around them, Elise unclipped his leash for their usual freedom break. Rex trotted ahead, periodically glancing back to confirm her position, but venturing further than ever before, emboldened by growing trust. As they rounded a bend, Rex suddenly froze, then darted into the underbrush with an urgent bark. "Rex, come!" Elise called, alarmed. No response, just continued barking now with a new, sharper tone. Following the sound, Elise pushed through snow-laden branches and found Rex standing over a still form, partially covered in snow. A young woman, unconscious, her hiking clothes woefully inadequate for the plunging temperature. Rex barked again, nudging the woman's hand with his nose. "Good boy," Elise breathed, kneeling to check the hiker's vital signs. She was breathing, but cold to the touch, showing signs of early hypothermia. Her leg was bent at an unnatural angle. A fall, likely fractured, and she'd been immobilized in the cold. Elise called emergency services and gave their location based on nearby trail markers. As they waited, she covered the woman with her coat and used Rex's body heat to help warm her. After 20 anxious minutes, they heard the rescue team approaching. Rex immediately tensed at the unfamiliar voices, retreating to Elise's side with a low growl. "It's okay," she soothed. "They're here to help." As 3 paramedics appeared, Rex's growl deepened. Elise quickly clipped his leash and moved him a few feet away, calmly explaining the situation. The paramedics stabilized the hiker and prepared her for evacuation. Spring arrived with a letter from the shelter board officially ending their monitoring period. "Based on the remarkable progress documented," it read, "we consider Rex's rehabilitation a success story that will inform our approach to similar cases in the future." Elise pinned the letter to her refrigerator beside photographs tracking Rex's transformation from the tense, defensive animal curled in a shelter corner to the still cautious but increasingly confident dog now curled at her feet. His dull coat now gleamed with health. His body, once gaunt, had filled out with proper nutrition and exercise. The haunted look in his eyes had softened. He still remained wary of strangers, especially men, but no longer responded with automatic aggression. Instead, he looked to Elise for guidance. The changes hadn't come without setbacks. There were hard days, moments when old fears resurfaced, causing Rex to retreat. But the trend remained upward. Each regression was followed by new advancement. Today marked another milestone, their first visit to the shelter since Rex's adoption. Megan had invited them to speak to potential adopters about rehabilitation, hoping their story would inspire others to consider dogs with difficult pasts. As they pulled into the shelter parking lot, Rex showed signs of recognizing the location. He pressed against the car window, tense, but not panicked. When Elise opened the door, he stepped out cautiously and stayed close to her side. Inside, several staff members who had known Rex during his time there watched in awe as he walked calmly beside her, no lunging, no growling, though still clearly alert. "I can't believe that's the same dog," one volunteer whispered. Megan greeted them warmly, kneeling to Rex's level while keeping respectful distance. "You look wonderful," she said softly, then turned to Elise. "We have a small group gathered in the education room. They're particularly interested in hearing about your approach." The education room held about a dozen people, prospective adopters and a few volunteers. Rex scanned the space, then quietly moved behind Elise, but showed no signs of fear or aggression. Over the next hour, Elise shared their journey. Rex eventually relaxed enough to lie down beside her chair. She spoke of patience without pressure, boundaries without force, and the importance of letting Rex set the pace of his own healing. The aggression wasn't the problem, she explained. It was his solution to a problem. Once we addressed the fear and gave him safer ways to communicate, he didn't need the aggression anymore. At the end, a woman in the back raised her hand. "There's a German Shepherd mix in the back kennels. Been here 3 months. They say he's too nervous, might never be good with kids. Do you think he could be helped too?" Elise smiled. "Every dog is different, with their own history and personality, but yes, with the right person and the right approach, remarkable transformations are possible." After the presentation, Megan asked if Elise would consider consulting. Rex lay beside her chair, his head resting gently against her foot. To a casual observer, they might have looked like any woman and her dog, enjoying a peaceful moment. But Elise knew better. She knew how far they'd come, from that first day at the shelter when no one believed connection was possible. "You just needed someone to see past the fear," she whispered, stroking his ears. "Someone who understood your aggression was just armor. Armor you wore because the world had hurt you." Rex leaned into her touch, eyes closing in contentment. The dog no one could touch had found his person, and in doing so, he had finally found his way home. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who needs a reminder. Behind the most defensive behaviors often lies a heart waiting for connection. Sometimes what appears broken is simply protecting itself the only way it knows how.